Hey everybody, it's Tyler. I am here with a video for you all, the financial feed for Goats by Goats, powered by LTG Analytics and sponsored by the USNA Property Network. And so, quick intro about myself is I'm a 2016 grad, played football at the academy, service selected Marine Ground, and then did the infantry thing for about 4 years. And then after that, in classic Marine Corps fashion, they sent me to NPS against my will and had me get a master's degree in operations research, which is essentially like stats and data science and coding and math. And so I am living proof that Marines can add past 20. And here we go. So what this is intended to be is basically, to back it up even a little bit more, when I was at NPS, my wife and I, we launched a business that predominantly invests in real estate. And what I did is I took my master's program and I applied it to real life problems with real estate investing. And so what we're going to go through today is kind of financial stuff about interest rates, what those look like right now in the present, what they look like in the past, and then kind of what that means to you. And so feel free to go to the website. So this will be linked. The website link will be in the description of the video. And if you click on that, you'll have access to the actual page that we're looking at right now. And so you'll be able to play with all these graphs, see all the data, and do it yourself, and not just take my word for it. And so before we talk too much about me, let's just kind of keep rolling here. So if you want to get connected with the USNA Property Facebook page, you just go ahead and go to that link and then click here. It'll take you to the Facebook page. This is just an intro about myself. And like I said, this is stuff that we use to make actual decisions about buying and selling, what we're looking at, kind of what we're projecting out and stuff. So hopefully this is interesting to you and also useful to you when it comes to making your own investment decisions. And so we're going to start off with just consumer interest rates, and this is all the rates that are you're probably familiar with hearing on the news. And when people are talking about our mortgage rates are over 7% or whatever it is, they're usually talking about this green line here, which is your 30-year mortgage rate. We've got good data on 30-year mortgages going back to the 70s. And what's really interesting is if you look at these little call-outs down here, the trailing 30-year conventional mortgage average, so this would be for the month of October, what the average was 6.95, and that is this green dotted line. The black dotted line was what the 3-month average was 6.65. And then the last 12 months, so last year's 5.07 was the trailing average. And so you can see those across time. What's really crazy is if you look at what the rates are right now, going back to the 70s all the way up to 2022, there have been about 30 years where the mortgage rates were above 7%. You can see that in this green line here. And if you just follow it across, and again, you'll have access to this to really take a look at it closer if you want to. But rates were well above 7% for quite some time. They only dipped below 7 a little bit here in the early 90s, but then they went back up, right? And so for the majority of time, like in the 70s and on, we've been above 7% as a mortgage product there. And so I think we've been kind of spoiled with rates. But when you're looking at this stuff, so you don't want to look at the 30-year mortgage, you can click that and it'll filter based on kind of what you want to see. And so just some functionality for all these different graphs. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in on what you guys probably care about the most, which is what's happening right now. And so all I did there was click and drag and it'll zoom in on spots. And so VA loans, you can see kind of where it bottomed out. I'll get rid of all the other stuff so you can see what VAs are doing. So green line here is your 30-year loan. Pink line is the VA loan. And you can see it really troughs out right here, December 2022, or 2020 and 2021. You're seeing VA loans in like the super low twos, which is crazy. Currently, right now, you're seeing them up at 6.78, 30-year loan, almost 7%. And so my bold prediction I'm making right now is I would be willing to bet that we're going to see rates at 7 for pretty significant portion of time, just because if you look at the historicals, it's like that's where we kind of had been before the age of the internet. I think it's going to take some serious market manipulation to bring us back into a world where we're sub 4% interest rates. And so here is all these are just the exact same information that you see in these green lines, green, black, and red line, but just for each of the different loan products. So you've got your jumbo, 30-year jumbo, USDA, VA, 15-year loans, 1 in 5 ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, and FHA. So now something else that I thought was interesting is I took these loans and I grabbed data off of Realtor.com that tells you what the median list price is nationally. And so I took that data and I compared it to, okay, what if you had the interest rate for that loan product for that time period, what the median list price was nationally, 20% down payment, no other costs are assumed, so no taxes, no private mortgage insurance, utilities, etc. And then what would that payment look like? And so these horizontal dash lines, we're using 30-year fixed rate conventional loan payment as that benchmark. And then green is the current month, black is an average of the last 3, and then red is the average from the previous 12 months. And so if you want to see all these different things, compare the data on Hover, you can see right now in October, 30-year mortgage at 6.9%, which at the time of this video, the Fed actually raised rates again, so I bet 6.9% is probably not even there anymore. $2,200 a month for a median list price home at $425, bringing a 20% down payment. The VA loan, $2,175 at a slightly lower rate. You'll see the VA has got actually better rates usually than 30-year conventional because it's backed by the federal government, right? And so that's something keep in mind. So remember $425 as that price. Let's go back to October of 17. So that was 5 years ago. That same quality of house, if you will, if we're going to say that the same price, median price point was the same quality of house, $275,000 house, that same payment at a 3.89% interest rate on lower debt, $1,037 for conventional, or $1,046 for VA. VA was slightly higher in that month. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, you're talking over $1,000 difference in payment when you look at it. And so it's definitely the factors that drove that increased rates. So we were in record low rates, which we saw on the previous screen, the previous graph. And then we're also seeing from 275 to 425. So you're borrowing more debt at higher interest rates. And so that's what's causing these payments to be much higher. So it is a fact. It's not as affordable as it was for similar prices. But if you bought a house, then it's great because you were the one who held on to you rode that ride of appreciation. So what a lot of these graphs are going to come with are tables for you to play around with. And so you can go in here, you can sort based on date, you can sort based on payment for all these different loan products, and then you can also sort based on the median list price. And you can play around with that at your leisure. So now we're going to look, I'm going to breeze through all these because I think it's better if you just go on the website and you take a look at these rates, and you can tease out some more stuff, and I don't want to harp on something for too long here. But this is what the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is. And again, that 7% number that we were talking about, so many more weeks of the year were spent above a 7% rate. And so we've been super, super spoiled. Even in starting 2010, after the financial crisis in 08, you see rates really start decreasing, hit their bottom during COVID, and then looking here, you see how quickly they're increasing. And so they bottomed out right around here, right around that 2.6-ish percent in 2020. And then we hit a little bit of a trough here and broke 7% last week in October, and then on Friday it was 6.95%. And so you're definitely, you're seeing the rates go up. And here's your your bumper plate stuff again, where most recent day, trailing month, 3 month, and year. Conventional fixed rate jumbo, again, you're seeing the same thing. Typically these rates are a little bit higher. We'll take a look at what's happening most recently. So you're seeing rates 705, 6.91. So we've broken the 7% barrier there with jumbo loans as well. USDA, another loan product. You're seeing the average as of this past Friday, 7.01%. So broke 7% on USDA loans. The VA holding strong, baby, 6.89%. So we did not go above where we had been, but I'll do the same thing here for VA loans. Take a closer look at where we really bottomed out. So like I said, you hit the lottery, you refinance kind of January 21, locked a rate in at least around there, and currently seeing the rates now. You see where they spike, and we're going to go into the Fed a little bit later in this presentation too, and you'll see very, very clearly when rates started to rise is exactly when the Fed started raising interest rates, which makes sense, right? But it's nice to actually see it in real life. And so you can see right here where we're breaking that 6.7, and actually on Friday was the highest rate at 6.89 that we've seen in a long time. All right, 15-year mortgages, again, same song, or same dance, different song. I don't know what the analogy is there, but very, very sharp, super sharp increase here. Like, look at this, massive. Like, we went from 2.79 in January of this year to 6.29. So that is, holy cow, that is almost a 4% hike in the 15-year mortgage rate. And so that's significant. That's not something to shake a stick at. Adjustable rate mortgages, another massive spike. So we'll take a look at this. Again, 5.95 from lows of 2.37. So well over 3% increase in mortgage rates there. And this one is a weekly reporting period as well. All right, FHA loans. So we keep a pretty close eye on FHA loans. The reason being is some of our flips are more first-time home buyer type flips, and so similar to the VA loan and FHA loan, you're able to use a pretty low down payment, and so a lot of our buyers are trying to qualify on FHA loans. So let's take a look at what that is, what that's been doing to me, causing me stress. 2.78% in 2021 January, and we are now looking down the barrel. Might take a second because there's so much data on this one. 6.94, right? So 7% change, or from that lower rate to 6.94, and so you can see what that looks like. All right, so that's all your consumer mortgages. I'm not going to bore you here. I would recommend you just pause the video and read what the federal funds rate is. I don't think I could define it as well as they literally define it over at the Federal Reserve Economic Database, FRED. And when you go to the website, you can click this and it'll send you straight to where I pulled the data for this exact data set. And so the curious minds. For the layman amongst us, basically the federal funds rate is an interest rate that banks charge each other. The Fed charges, Federal Reserve banks charge other banks to take their money to fulfill loans. And so look at this. So going back to 1955. Oh, didn't like that. Let me set it real quick. Going back to 1955, though, we've got good data for what those numbers look like. So I'm just going to zoom in and go back in time to the 50s, Korean War. And you can see right about well above the 1 year average, but everything is very rarely does it dip down, and if it dips down below 1%, it comes right back up. And so you're seeing in this period at least the Fed rate, funds effective rate, is really jumping around but it's definitely not zero, right? It's not zero by a long shot. Then the next thing you want to see, or that I think is telling, is looking at what happened during the 1980s for the federal funds effective rate. And so once that reloads here, look at this. Look at this big spike. We're up at 19% for the federal funds rate, which is pretty shocking, in my opinion. That's a high rate to have the banks getting charged to just be fulfilling these loans. And so that's where we saw a ton of inflation in the 80s. There's some other, I'm sure, other products I'll be pushing out that talk specifically about inflation, but so keep that in mind. It got as high as 18%. This is 2006 before. Now we're going to look from like 2006 onward. This one's got a ton of data in this graph, so it takes a hot second for it to jump to it. So now you can see federal funds rate prior to the financial crisis was right at 5.28, and then it fell off a cliff. So 2008 financial crisis brought the federal funds rate down to below like a quarter of a point. And it stayed that way for quite some time as we're recovering from that and kind of got used to it. And when you look at the rates, you can see that the rates were also very low during this whole time period. Part of the reason, right, is because the Fed had such a low federal funds effective rate. Now you can see them kind of starting to raise those notches a little bit through 17. They're stair-stepping it, and then it falls off a cliff again. So you see it fall off the cliff during COVID, and it's almost free money that the Fed is basically telling banks that, hey, go ahead, use our funds. We're not even going to charge you interest, essentially. Look at that. It's like less than 0.1% interest, which is better than my career starter loan. Our career starter loans were 0.075% interest, like 0.75%, which is crazy. Part of the reason why I was able to invest in real estate and while active duty was because of that thing. Anyways, I digress. Now, look what's happening though. And so I would encourage you, again, get back on here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Take a look at this website, play around, and then get a feel for like what it looks like when the Fed starts raising rates like this. And so you see them starting in March, they gave it a quarter basis point bump, right? There it is. They bumped it at 0.25%, and then they bumped it again, half a basis point. Then they bumped it again, and this time it was a little bit more. Bumped it again, and then they just bumped it again. I think on this past week, and so it's a weekly update. So this stair step is going to happen again when I update this data. But here, again, trailing year average, it was averaging at a 1%, including all those rises, and so it was super low, which is part of the reason why we had such those things. So bank prime rate, something to know about bank prime rate is it's not the interest rate you're going to get charged, but it's what your bank uses most of the time to price short-term business loans. And so our bank in Texas, where we do a lot of investing, they usually charge prime plus 1. And so you can see again, like obviously look at that, got up to 20% in that day and age. Now let's take a look at kind of present era. Again, this one's got a lot of data on it because I think it's a daily update. But right now, we're seeing 6.25. And the most recent date, I think it's even. If I pull it over to the side a little bit, you'll see a 7% rate, right? Which is that for that. If you see that one little sliver, that little guy right there. Zoom in on him. So for that, for people like us that are investing in real estate, our bank is probably going to be charging us 8% for a loan that previously we've been getting like 4.25%. So when the prime rate was lower, you see that 7% this past Friday. So, anyways, so overnight funding rate. This is another like a daily rate I'm not going to bother you. Go to the website, click on this, and then click on this if you want to really understand what exactly the federal fund, the overnight rate is. But what I want to point out here is this very large stepping stone rates increase, right? Mirrors the federal fund's effective rate, but it's slightly different. All right, well, that is it, folks. So this was a sprint through a bunch of data. I would recommend you pause it, take a look at this stuff, and then from there, really do your own kind of thoughts about stuff. Don't take anything I said at face value. Make sure the numbers actually make sense to you. But it's always a good idea to kind of stay current on stuff like this. And hopefully you found some value in this. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. All right. Have a great day.